marijuana. Here on this next slide, this is preventable deaths in the United States according to the CDC and DEA in their drug fact sheets. First is tobacco, which is readily available and legal for anyone over the age of 18. Accounts for 480,000 deaths a year. That's a lot. Next we have alcohol coming in at 88,000. And next is opioids at almost 48,000, and cannabis, again, at 0. And this is because when I was mentioning earlier about the brainstem not having cannabinoid receptors, so we're not able to receive those cannabinoids in the area that is in charge of our breathing and respiration. So you would have to have cannabis fall out of the sky from an airplane and land on you to kill you. Even the World Health Organization had a meeting on this recently. It was one of their issues that they met about is removing cannabis from the international controlled substances list. And they come back with a recommendation for the countries to meet and talk about, and their recommendation is that it should be rescheduled to the least harmful class that they have. The letter also recommends removing CBD from the list of schedules completely, and preparations with less than, this number's different now for international, 0.2% THC would no longer be under international control. So this is our World Health Organization recommending this. So whether the United States listens, we shall see. These are some recommended readings I have if you're interested in learning more. I've gotten great value of the 2 books, Vitamin Weed and CBD, A Patient's Guide to Medical Cannabis. Both are great resources. If you're more into wanting to just check out some things online and not really purchase a book, projectcbd.org is a fantastic resource. They have a CBD for beginners area. This is by journalists, doctors, scientists. You're going to get really accurate information from this website. I highly recommend checking it out. And then this next slide is just if you wanted to connect with me. This is my email and social media and website, and I have some cards with me as well. You're welcome to talk with me after. And I'm just going to show you just kind of what some products look like. This is just a basic oil. So this is what you hear a lot of times about people taking under their tongue. It's a sublingual oil, so that means it's absorbed into the bloodstream sublingually under your tongue before going into your stomach and your liver and having to be bypassed and broken down that way. This is very common. I think a lot of people have heard of this. Also something that people make that I make is a salve, so you can use it topically on your skin as well to treat dry skin conditions, anywhere that you might have, you say like muscle spasms or nerve pain. It's used for a wide variety of applications, even topically. Some people actually use what's called RSO. It was Rick Simpson oil. He was the man who kind of coined the technique. You might have heard that a lot for cancer. People with maybe tumors that are untreatable, they'll try and, if it's something that's visible on the outside, they'll apply it directly and you can actually see it shrink. So there's a lot of anecdotal evidence out there. There's just not a lot of, the double-blind placebo kind of test in the United States to go with it. But I know we're going to hold questions to the end. We're just going to kind of change and let Terry do the next part of the presentation.
I just wanted to mention while Terry's coming up that we will have this on our website. It's being filmed and the slides.
I'm going to scoot the chair over and let her move.
I think we've got some cards over there, Louie-Lynn. We've got some.
Do you mind to be on Instagram, or do you want me to turn a video on?
I don't
If you
mind.
want to take one of those.
I'm going to be. You don't have to do anything. Oh, and I didn't scare everybody completely, but showing you the last bit of what I brought, this is hemp. And I'll pass it around. Everyone's welcome to take a look, but it looks exactly like marijuana. You can't tell a difference other than sending it off to a lab and having it tested.
The slides are for you. Hi, so I'm Terry. Dr. Terry Thrower, and I wanted to expand a little bit on my story, just to begin with. So talk about how I tried medical cannabis in Illinois. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So when we were there in 2016, and this was before I started having symptoms of spinal cord compression, I was dealing with chronic pain and had been taking opioids for about 9 years, prescription opioids. And my GP was starting to get some, feedback from her higher-ups, I guess, or the state or something. But she was pushing me to cut them back. And so, but she didn't offer any alternatives. And so I did, and I said, well, with my husband's prompting, because I wasn't, like Rachel, I dabbled as a teenager, but not very much. And so it wasn't something I would just be like a go-to, oh, I'll just smoke a joint. I had to sort of go, really? Okay, I'll try medical cannabis. And so I did. And trying and the trial and error of medical cannabis for me meant going to a dispensary and not having any clue what I was doing, and being sort of subject to whatever knowledge the bud tenders could provide to me while I was there. And what that ended up being was, well, a lot of people really like this. This gets you stoned. So I tried that, and I didn't like getting stoned. And this was flour. This was something that I could vape, or I could smoke if I wanted to, but I didn't want to. And so I tried different strains, and then we finally started doing research, and some of the strains that I found were like a one-to-one. One of my favorites was a Harlequin vape pen, and this strain was really nice. It didn't make me feel like I needed to lie down and stop the paranoia. And I mean, I just didn't have a good reaction to getting, a lot of THC in my system. So, and after that, for sort of regular use, I found something with high CBD and low THC, and that worked for me. So I started to decrease my opioids, and that's kind of how it began. The medical cannabis didn't do anything for the spinal cord compression symptoms, let me tell you. That took a major surgery, but then I was left with peripheral neuropathy after having my cervical spine fused. And, spinal cord compression, it sort of leaves you with an incomplete spinal cord injury and everything that comes with, fatigue and pain and difficulty regulating temperature, that kind of thing. But so I was back to taking opioids too with the pain, and I was taking too many of them and following the surgery. And about 2 months after surgery, 2 months after this major surgery, and maybe 2 weeks after I was discharged from inpatient rehab, and Greg and I had a conversation, he really helped me see that my mind on the opioids was gone. I was just a zombie. And so that's when I decided to just stop, and I did. And I had the medical cannabis available to me in Illinois, and that is the only reason that I was able to do it. And by then we were ready to leave Chicago. And that's when we come to the low THC program here in Georgia. Right, they started this in 2015. And it started they called it Haley's Hope because they were primarily focused on kids having seizures. And, they wanted to keep it oil, and they wanted to keep it low THC, they wanted to be really safe. This is Georgia. And they added peripheral neuropathy in 2017, which it was even before the governor signed the bill, we were on our way down here. So it was like, okay, we're here. They didn't tell us everything. In the law, low THC oil, which I have props to, low THC oil, which I have here, contains THC. Does yours?
No, mine's a CBD only.
the definition, as you can see, says it must contain an amount of CBD, not necessarily an equal amount of CBD, and an amount of THC or THCA, or a combination of both of those, not to exceed 5% by weight. But that is usually measured in flour in dry weight. And so here it's measured in liquid weight because it's oil only. And notice the bottom part of the definition. And remember Rachel defining the entourage effect for you. And even in my experience in Illinois with the different strains that I tried and the different effects that they had on my body and my mind and my pain, there should be no evidence of plant material in this oil. So there's no entourage effect. It's like they took the molecules out and they just put them in some oil. So anyway, I'm grateful that I have it. It helps me. And yet, at the same time, I'm not getting a full benefit from a plant-based that maybe I realized when I was in a different state. You can't smoke it. You can't have flour. You can possess up to 20 fluid ounces, which is, by the way, a lot. This is a 2-ounce bottle, so I can have 10 of these in my possession, as long as I have my card. There are currently only 9,561, and I checked that on Thursday. You gotta have a qualifying condition, and every state is different, as you probably already know. This state started off with the kids, but it soon went to, as you can see, a lot of end stage. Most of these say end stage or severe, so cancer, AIDS, Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's, multiple sclerosis, mitochondrial disease, Tourette's, I can't remember.
Autism.
ALS.
All of these are on the screen.
Yes. All you sighted people, go right ahead. And I'll just not try to turn my head anymore. They added in 2017, peripheral neuropathy and probably something else. And then last year, in 2018.
Intractable pain and PTSD.
That was last year, 2018. Yeah, intractable pain and PTSD. PTSD is the only one that specifies you have to be over 18. But most of these ailments are disabling conditions that happen in adulthood. And I want you to know that because later on Greg's going to tell you I'm not allowed to vape. So not only am I not allowed to smoke because there's no flour, but I can't even vape the oil. And that is an issue, and we'll talk about why later. It's very easy. You consult with your doctor. I'm sorry. That always makes me laugh. Because
Just like that.
yes, my doctors are like, huh? And in Georgia, you tend to have to find a specialist who kind of knows what you're talking about. And that's what I did. There's actually lists are kept on the internet, that are sort of the medical cannabis doctors that you can go to. But you should be able to go to your GP. You should be able to go to any of your doctors, but they'll go, I don't know anything about this. And they don't because it's federally illegal. And of course they don't know much about it. So I'm doing most of the teaching with my general practitioners, and fortunately they're open to talking about it. You go to your doctor, the doctor says, yes, you qualify because you meet one of these qualifying conditions, and then they sign you up to the registry. That is administered by the DPH. And the DPH, you get sort of signed up through their computer system, and the whole process takes only 15 days and costs only $25. So when you go pick up your card, and you'll get a card, either, whether you're a patient or a caregiver of a patient. It costs $25, and it's good for 2 years. In Illinois, that whole process took about 3 months and at least $1,000 for us to complete.
Wow.
And I needed to be fingerprinted and had a background check. So it's different everywhere you go.
California was very easy towards the end.
Was it?
Before recreational came about. In the beginning, I actually went into an office and saw a doctor, and towards the, because I had to renew every year, and towards the end, I could do it online without actually ever seeing anybody, and to the point where all I had to do was send a picture of my license. So I actually helped my friend get one for her birthday without her even being present. It was that easy. So.
Whoa.
How do you get it?
Oh, how do you get it?
You can get your card, that's easy. But how do you get the stuff?
How do you get it? You guys know? Because I don't. No, okay, I have a method. What we do is we rely on the Underground Railroad. There's no cultivation. No, this is public knowledge, Terry Lynn.
Okay.
This is public knowledge that there are 500 of those 9,561, and I'm one of them, that gets free oil. It comes from the goodness and the generosity of Representative Alan Peake, or former Representative Alan Peake, and he has no idea how it gets here. He swears. He does not know, but it arrives, and he distributes it. And he pays for it too. I don't know how he does that, but he's not saying. And he has some Good Samaritans who help him distribute the oil. So that's one way. The other way is people are going out of state. They're buying it in other states and they're smuggling it in across the state line. Stories we've heard of, especially desperate moms who want to help their children, are buying illegally on the street and then doing making it into oil themselves at home. So, people are turned into criminals basically in Georgia because we don't have a way to get it. There is legislation that Greg's going to tell you about.
I have a question, Terry.
Yeah.
I had heard that you could go out and buy this oil in different places. So
CBD oil, probably.
So there's a difference in the oils that you're talking about.
Yes. Yes.
Mine has no THC at all, and it could have up to 0.3% THC and be legal. But her oil that has more than that is not legal everywhere. Like this, I have is my product I make, and I have it in several stores across the nation. So you can pick those up in a lot of places.
So that's probably what people.
And that's what everyone's getting hip on and using, and they're like, wow, this is great. And I think that's our next step, because as people kind of see how that one works well, they're like, oh, well, maybe THC isn't so bad after all if it's just another molecule in the same plant.
I have a question for Terry before she goes too far. Rachel talked about a lot of differences and balances, and you talked about the balances between CBD and THC. And then you talk about this one distributor to get the oil from. Does that mean everybody, all those 9,561 people are getting the exact same oil?
Yeah.
500 of them.
No.
Well, they're getting two kinds of oil basically, right?
Well, at least.
We think it's two. I wish there were a variety of oils. But as far as we know, there's a 1-to-1, and the other one is a...
It's a 0.3% too.
It's a
much
CBD.
like what
It's more,
Rachel
yeah,
was using.
It's just this.
it's more for the
It's just
kids.
that-
But to clarify, what she's talking about are the 500 patients that former Representative Alan Peake is supplying.
Sponsoring.
Those that are getting it out of the state, either having it smuggled in or shipped into them, or from some vendor who's willing to risk shipping it in, that could be anything. It just has to fit that weird definition of 5% THC, but in reality that 5% THC doesn't mean anything. It's dry weight. Once you get it into a liquid form, That's a totally different topic. That's milligrams per milliliter, and that's a different subject altogether. And that is the controversy that I know the Georgia State Legislature is really not addressing. And so you may think that something is safe or something is going to operate as expected. It's not going to. It's different. And to kind of, Rachel mentioned tinctures like the one that she has and the ones that Terry have here. The tinctures were used in the 19th century. We have gone back from the 21st century to 19th century administration of this stuff. And so what Terry does is she fills a syringe up to a certain amount. It's usually, she microdoses at 0.3 milliliters per dose. And yet there is no instruction on how much she really should take. In this particular case, she could fill the entire syringe to 1 ml. She could take 3 of those, and she would be loaded on what is supplied from Georgia and from Representative Allen Peake. She would be loaded. Her sister did this. Her sister also has cervical spine issues, is a teacher. She took 1 syringe worth. It didn't address the pain. She took another. It didn't address the pain. She went to class. About an hour after she was in class, she realized that she was loaded.
Wow.
And there is, so the laws are inadequate in even controlling what the laws think they're controlling. So that's a problem. I'm going to do it totally different. I hope you can hear me, and I hope this is okay, because mine is not beautiful like Rachel's. My presentation is not beautiful like Rachel's at all. Mine is all about text. It's all the laws that are currently in vogue in the state of North Carolina and currently in vogue in the state of Georgia. So this is North Carolina, and North Carolina's current law says that the only condition treated is intractable epilepsy. You can have no more than 0.9% THC by weight, and it has to have at least 5% cannabidiol by weight. That's what it says currently, and that's what is regulated in North Carolina for the one condition. This was called Bethany's Law when it was passed in 2014. There are 2 bills up in the General Assembly of North Carolina right now. One is Senate Bill 168. What they're trying to do is they're trying to alter that original Bethany's bill. What they're doing to make this work, they think, is they're changing the text. They're saying, we don't want to call it hemp extract anymore. We want to get with the times and we want to call it cannabis extract. It sounds more professional and it fits better with what Rachel's definitions were. Hemp is so last year. Let's go for something that is in vogue and common around the states, which is cannabis. They also are changing the definition, or wish to change the definition, so that for this particular bill, 0.3% tetrahydrocannabinol, THC, to 0.9%, this narrow little range, is going to be what is therapeutic for epilepsy plus a few other conditions. This is very interesting because anything less than 0.3 is considered industrial hemp, and that's fair game for the farmers to play with. Once you get into this realm, it's a little different. North Carolina is going away from the farmers into this gray area. And you'll see in a minute another bill that's going through North Carolina that is trying to become a more substantial medical cannabis.